It's time now, everyone, for our fourth and final speaker of the evening. Richard Turley will be well known to regular readers of It's Nice That as the one-time creative director of Bloomberg Business Week, and as the man who relaunched Interview magazine and gave MTV its distinctive aesthetic a few years back. He's currently executive creative director at Wieden+Kennedy in New York, but tonight he's joining us to talk through a really lovely project he's been working on during isolation alongside Lucas Mascatello, with whom he founded Civilization, which they refer to as a newspaper-cum-support-group for New York City. Richard, if you're there, please turn on your audio and video, and we'll say hello.
Hello. How's it
going? So you're in New York, I guess.
I am. Yeah, in Fantastic. My living room.
How are you getting through the lockdown?
I don't know, slowly. Every day is its own universe of sorts. I feel like kind of just getting through the day is the main objective. But you know, I'm not hating it either. I'm quite enjoying just having a little bit of time just to think and ponder and spend time with the family. So it's not been all bad. It's not been all bad.
Fair enough. Well, listen, I'm going to let you share your screen and take us away on the presentation. And yeah, I'll check back in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Right. We can see it. Perfect.
I'm hoping that my Wi-Fi router is going to hold up here. But I'm going to talk about this thing that I've been doing with my friend Lucas, which is a kind of a letter series, a newsletter. But they wanted me to just do a quick plotted history. So I work for Wieden+Kennedy, which is a big sort of ad agency. I work on the global team, which means I have to kind of go, well, I had to in the past 4 years, go around the world. So I kind of live out of a suitcase. A lot of these kind of experiences, which I'm assuming we'll come back to at some point. So these sort of things of kind of like very late meetings and presentations, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. Lots of kind of like hotel rooms, lots of 5 a.m. Well, actually not lots, but this is one particularly awful, brutal presentation. This is like 6 a.m. in the foyer of a hotel trying to fix a presentation. Lots of mood boards and all this kind of horror show. But then, you know, how you can't complain, you know, I mean, I get to see things like this. This is sort of, well, probably about, again, 5 a.m. jet lagged in Tokyo and in Delhi, the sort of the mist and the haze. It's still a kind of a real honour to be able to visit that city. And then when I was there, I mean, I think the thing that I've done that's most notable is this Formula One branding, which we did a couple of years back. I also work for Interview, as Matt was saying. You know, it's a magazine. You know, Andy Warhol started it a few years ago. Yeah, well, about 50 years, something crazy, 50 years ago or something. And then I do this with a guy called Mel Ottenberg, primarily, just from a kind of creative point of view. You know, it's a magazine. Here's some pages from it. I also do some things for my friends. This is a project I did for Barney's last year. Barney's is a department store in New York, a bit like Selfridges in London. They were really going out of business, but they couldn't quite say it and they didn't quite know. But me and Tom kind of got asked to help them with the final, you know, which turned out to be their final windows. They didn't really know it at the time. And at the time, you know, there was a lot of kind of things in the press about the store closing. And so instead of kind of like hiding from it, we thought it would be much more fun just to lean in and just put all the pain on the outside of the building instead of just hiding from it in the inside. So it was just a sort of quite a kind of anarchic, you know, way of kind of addressing kind of consumerism and the kind of the frustration of buying things and needing to bring money. You know, that was, you know, the fact that the store wasn't closed. I mean, we had to sort of, you know, they were very keen to sort of address the fact that it was still open. And so we solved that problem by kind of writing "not closed" all over it. Then for MTV, I think it's a little bit of an overstatement to say that I kind of affected much kind of with its aesthetic kind of direction. But, you know, I worked for MTV for a couple of bits, for a couple of years, sorry. Initially, I was doing the kind of the bumpers and the branding all around the ads. And then that kind of ladded up to being given a couple of hours each weekday for a month, just to kind of to mess around with. This is Taylor Swift inside a jihadi hostage video, which is, you know, you'd constantly try and sneak little things out and hope that you didn't get caught by the kind of people. And you know, it's just small acts of rebellion, kind of mean, kind of, you know, take on bigger meanings in kind of big corporate institutions. Yeah, the show we did was called MTV No Chill. Then the thing I suppose that I'm kind of most known for is Business Week, and you know, here's some covers. I mean, there's no point going too far into this, but you know, yeah, we had to do a cover each week, obviously. And you know, we tried to do a kind of a big idea. You know, that everyone, I hope, there was sort of some kind of idea behind it. I mean, you know, it's also kind of a bit of an oversimplification. Some, you know, you're going to see about 8 covers here, but there was a ton of kind of crap ones. These are some of the better ones. And then, yeah, but it was the most kind of important project that I've done, really, because you know, because if only one main reason is because it kind of brought me to New York, and you know, that's where I am and that's where I stayed. And you know, this is essentially kind of like what the project that I'm going to talk to you about is a newspaper for and kind of about New York. This is the naked cowboy at the moment, you know, with his mask on. But yeah, so me and Lucas set up this newspaper about 2 years ago called Civilization. It was so I did it for a few reasons, but I think the overriding reason was that I missed, you know, a bit like what Liz was saying earlier, actually. I kind of just really missed paper. I missed tactility, you know, I missed analog things and, you know, touching stuff. And I think that's something that's kind of extended all the way through the kind of the process with Civilization. You know, I wanted something to touch and hold in my hand, something that was kind of real and that made me feel something, and that wasn't just a sort of a digital kind of interface. I mean, the idea of Civilization, in a sense, there are lots of kind of conflicting reasons for the paper, but it's sort of about living in cities. It's about living in kind of New York and sort of how to navigate that, and the dissonance of living in a kind of a city which kind of just shouts at you all the time. You know, the chaos, the frenzy. You know, and the kind of the interesting thing, I suppose, is that we sort of tried to do this, or we do this, like mostly without pictures. You know, this is the sort of the flat plan. It's a 16-page newspaper, broadsheet, so it's huge. It's like, actually, I've got one up there. It's you know, it's huge. You know, it's kind of big. And we want it to be kind of overwhelming. We want it to, you know, but to be overwhelming with kind of text. And, you know, the reason for not using pictures, I suppose, was that, you know, with no disrespect to all the amazing pictures we've seen so far, is that we just see a lot of pictures. You know, we're almost entirely image-based kind of, maybe that's an overstatement, but we are an image-based society now. And, you know, and I wondered if you could find the equivalence with the frenzy of pictures, and the way that you get fed pictures now through Instagram, where it's kind of, they rub up against each other. They don't make any sense next to each other. You see a picture of kind of Trump, you see a picture of your best friend, you see a picture of pot plant, you see a picture of somebody's food, and you're never quite sure what's coming next. And that gives them this kind of addictive quality. So I I wondered if, you know, could you have the same sort of feeling with words? Could you sort of have that same kind of tension and that same kind of connection? I mean, obviously, you know, we've done 4 now, and, you know, we do put a picture on the cover, clearly, which is this kind of like fallen angel sort of character, which has come to be kind of symbolic for us, and kind of, you know, to sort of as a kind of proxy for what, you know, for us and for people. You know, again, the choice of, you know, not having too many pictures or very few pictures is just that you can't really identify in any of the voices, that they're all lost, that sexes, races, kind of ages all get kind of blended, and you're never quite sure who you're talking to or who you're reading about. You know, I mean, as you said, that slide before, there's about 75,000 words in each issue. You know, a few diagrams. You know, the interviews are mostly recorded with either me or Lucas or one of our friends, you know, and we spice these kind of conversations with sort of slogans, half thoughts, lots of lists, kind of offcuts, things we've kind of overheard, and emails, books, you know, Word documents. We've recorded work meetings before, and, you know, we just wanted to really have this kind of blend of information, just kind of, you know, in this very traditional form, but that's been kind of scrambled and like it's been kind of put in a liquidizer. You know, each of the issues has followed kind of basically the same form, you know, a different color in each, but you know, from a design point of view, I found that they've got more and more complicated as I've gone on, you know, and I've kind of wanted to sort of to increase more and more kind of complexity into the kind of the layout. And, you know, I mean, where's one here? Where's a better one? Yeah, I mean, like the center of this thing here, where the kind of, you know, with stories really bleeding into each other, just so they're kind of completely kind of confused. And I don't know if that's something about the way I think about things, but, you know, how confused I get by everything. But I really wanted it to be, you know, to have that kind of energy and that scattered nature, and to, you know, I mean, and again, also like the content itself is really, it started off being about the exterior of New York and became really about being about the interior. About what you feel and kind of how you feel about things, and these kind of quite personal missives and kind of, you know, I don't know what the hell it is. Anyway, it's but yeah, we were just approaching issue 5 before the virus, and you know, Lucas and I were talking about what we wanted to do. You know, the idea of doing a sort of an email newsletter or something kind of digital didn't really seem kind of right for us. And you know, this is a picture of New York in the lockdown, and you know, and I think on the subject of a newsletter, we were kind of, you know, that seemed to be something that we wanted to do, or something that's somewhere kind of communicating what it's like to be locked up and trapped, and it felt very much in our kind of wheelhouse. And we were really kind of like, we'd been talking a little bit before about kind of mail art, and you know, I don't know how, you know, how widespread this is, but mail art kind of grew out of the Fluxus movement, which I suppose his famous protagonist would be someone like Yoko Ono. You know, and it kind of grew out, and the idea was that there were these small scale artworks that were sent through the postal service that were almost kind of like validated by the means of how it was received, you know, and the dirt and the grime and the stickers and, you know, and the stamps all became part of the artwork. The most famous protagonist of this is a guy called Ray Johnson, who you know, who there's not enough time to really talk about, but, you know, well, he's just fucking great, basically. So go and look him up. Anyway, the postal service also was something that was kind of that felt fairly unaffected by the virus. You know, it was actually a means of getting tactile things in people's hands. You know, you could kind of, it struck us that, like, in a world where human contact was being denied, this is a moment where you could actually touch someone, and kind of, and, you know, the same paper would be passed hand to hand. You know, so we invested, I think, about $30 in a PO box in our local store, in our local post office, and kind of began really, you know, and so also, you know, I've always been kind of, you know, we've done everything with us apart from kind of the printing, but now this sort of, the other kind of interesting thing that I didn't really realize with this process is that, but I was also kind of taking charge of the manufacturing as well, which I've actually really enjoyed. You know, really enjoyed sort of touching something and making something, you know, and kind of being kind of responsible for every kind of part of it. And I did it all on my kids', you know, inkjet, essentially. On the left-hand side picture here, you have, you know, our trips to Staples and all the kind of the ephemera that we've collected. But on the right-hand side, you've got, you know, that's the tool that, you know, that phrase, you know, kind of, you know, you want to kind of take charge of by the means of production, control the means of production. Well, there it is. It's just like a simple office jet. This is my kid. This is the computer is, you know, the printer's in the corner of his room. He was very upset by this whole you know, this intervention in his room, and was kind of highly kind of pissed off by it. But anyway, so yeah, so the first one, we put the first one out, or if we finished the first one just at the beginning of April, and it was really just a letter. You know, it was, you know, it's hard to kind of well, I'm not going to start reading it out, but we sort of, I didn't want it to be a kind of a replicant of the newspaper, but I wanted it to feel like a letter, and so the typeface kind of felt appropriate to sort of use it. I mean, I'm kind of obsessed by the typewriter typefaces at the moment, anyway. So anyway, so, you know, and there's just some kind of close-ups and some scans of it. You know, each one is personalised. Each one, I write the name. You know, if you're, you know, Mr. You know, whatever, if it's your name is Sam, you'll get a letter which says "Dear Sam" on it, and, you know, we'll put little messages on the letter, on the artwork. You know, we still have these kind of diagrams that we kind of think about slightly differently. Loads and loads of lists. You know, the overall effect is kind of is about, you know, is really just sort of this idea of containment and being sort of swamped by messages. But I suppose this time the messages are all coming in from kind of like news sites and kind of the internet, and it's just like this overwhelming kind of you know, information overload. And, you know, the whole kind of project really has been about kind of that, being about how, you know, words and, you know, and messages have just kind of got blended together, and how, you know, days get blended together. And it's, but, you know, we're supposed to, you know, there's some sort of, I don't know, there's some sort of kind of message there. And then, you know, the container for the letter is, you know, you know, so I'm there with my stickers and the sort of, you know, I've got one of those stamps, and, you know, we kind of make the envelopes to, you know, sort of to affect the envelopes as well, which kind of picks up a little bit of that whole kind of mail art vibe. This is a, you know, it's got her address on it. Shit, okay, ignore the addresses. Okay, so the second one, yeah, so we did that one, and that kind of, you know, we sold quite a few. Well, I mean, not that it doesn't really matter how many sell. We sold a load, and then we moved on to the second one. And the second one, when each one of these things, we wanted to be a slightly different thing. We wanted it to be kind of like it's the only kind of consistency being that there's a sort of letter kind of component, and that it's something, it's in an envelope. And this one we kind of went a bit more to town and became this kind of multi-piece sort of thing, you know, including kind of like I mean, I went crazy at I mean, it turns out like there's all this stuff at Staples that I never knew, like perforated card and, you know, different colored paper. And so it's a bit of me kind of like marinating in just sort of stuff that's, you know, just paper, I suppose, really. And, you know, so this is all the kind of components pretty much for the second part, the second letter. So again, you have the kind of, in the top left hand corner, you've got the letter itself, and then some postcards, and on the right hand side is just me and Mel going for a walk, and then just some more kind of like these kind of poster forms. Some just some more kind of close up details here. Yeah. You know, it's kind of quite poetic, I suppose, in places. It's definitely sort of like marinates in sort of feely text, you know, and, you know, weep for me in the middle of that. So that, you know, there's a lot of kind of, there's a lot of that, and like, sorry, I'm a mess, you know, and it's kind of, it definitely is that sort of vibe, and, you know, which I think turns a lot of people off. I think a lot of people kind of just can't stand that, you know, boredom. And it's just, again, this like this idea of everything kind of blending together. This is the walk with Mel I had. This actually was just like a print. Again, you know, like when you start making things yourself, when you start to kind of operate at the kind of, you know, the very basic end of kind of like how you make things, you get accidents as well. And some of the accidents that, I mean, this is me accidentally sending the wrong thing through the printer, or not realizing the printer was in, and just this kind of beautiful kind of result at the end of it. This is like the perforated cardboard ripped apart. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of lists and things, and kind of just, I don't know, things I miss doing. And then, oh God, more. Don't read the addresses. Then, you know, so then this time I actually kind of like sent the envelopes to the printer, through the office, you know, through the you know, the print thing. Again, sometimes like this is when the ink's running out, you get a really cool effect with the kind of with the guy. This is me. Then literally, I mean, you know, I'm, you know, some kind of like highfalutin, fancy kind of, you know, advertising exec now, but like, here's me just sort of like stuffing things into envelopes, and, you know, I sort of kind of loved it, you know. It's a nice way to spend my weekend. And then we're on to the third one now. So this is very much in progress. We're just about to kind of like launch this one, and so we have the letter. I mean, you know, this one is actually more of a zine, it seems, and we've kind of like stapled it together, and it's going to be more of a kind of just a sort of, you know, a stapled kind of bunch of thoughts. There's a few of us have kind of like worked on it this time. You know, the interior of the kind of the covers here has got this kind of quite lurid sort of tale of kind of like missing a boyfriend. There's various different passages that have come through. There's quite a lot of kind of commentary around sort of how you make nachos, and we've kind of like collided that with all sorts of stuff already. So you can see on the right hand side of this page, there's a little bit of stuff around kind of like the COVID and all that kind of. I mean, we tried to keep the word kind of virus out of it, so it's all obviously kind of about the virus, but never really kind of directly mentioning it too much. Some drawing that Lucas did, and some spinach on his plate that he took. Yeah, I mean, you know, the void. This is some cereal. This is this is someone's dogs who are kind of fighting. I mean, kind of obviously, you know, and so the whole thing is this sort of confusing kind of ode. Here's something like Buddhist sort of scripture type thing, some sayings on the left hand side, over pictures of Pro Plus and stuff. Here's a list of kind of excellent karaoke songs. and then the end, sort of Love You to Death, and then the continuation of that piece, the missing boyfriend piece, and then that's kind of the end. I think it's probably going to look like that. I'm not quite sure, but I was hoping to. I actually thought this talk was on Thursday, so I was hoping to have actually had this thing finished by then. But this was it as of about 11 o'clock last night, and that's it. I'm done. That was my project.
Thanks very much, Richard. It's never been nicer Thursdays, I have to tell you. But thanks so much. Thanks very much. I think you can stop screen sharing now. And as with all the other speakers, I've got just one question for you, really, which was also submitted by our audience. What are you most looking forward to once the lockdown is over? It's kind of a cheeky one. There's two questions in here. And is there anything you're actually quite thankful for during this time?
Well, we're stuck in New York. It's been fine, but I'm looking. I miss my family, so it's really just boring stuff about missing my family and kind of that really. We felt, you always feel quite a long way away from home when you don't live there, but it's felt like a long way, these past few weeks. So I'm at some point, hopefully, I can kind of get back there. I haven't hated this experience, though, if I'm being honest. I'm already slightly nostalgic for it in a funny sort of way. The chance just to sort of, it's been busy and difficult and torturous in many ways, but I think you learn things. I've learned. I don't know. I've actually quite enjoyed just hitting the pause button and kind of just what the fuck am I doing? What am I doing? I'm kind of, you just sort of color, you just keep on making decisions and you keep on doing things. And I don't think I've ever had the chance, apart from kind of going on holiday for a couple of weeks, you don't really have the chance just to hit pause and really reflect and think about, what are you doing? Where are you going? And I don't know necessarily if that's going to net out into anything beyond doing exactly the same thing again when I come back, but yeah, I don't know.
Fair enough. No, I think for you as well, probably not jumping on a plane every few weeks is probably also quite nice. But listen, I was just gonna say thanks so much for joining us and for that fantastic presentation. A couple of people have said, can you send those things to London? And I think that would be a great kind of next project. You can, if you want to find it on the internet, you can buy. I kind of hesitated to put it in because I don't really want to be completely inundated by stuff because I'm actually having to physically make them. But if you root around on the internet, you can kind of I'll send you one. Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks so much. I'm going to ask you now to turn off your audio and video, but thank you again for an amazing presentation. One final announcement for everyone, and that's just basically the best social post of the evening. That goes to Laura Sinclair. So Laura, we will be in touch with you to send you your kind of 2 free tickets to the next Nicer Tuesdays. So well done for that. Everyone else, I'm afraid that brings us to the end of tonight's show, our first ever online Nicer Tuesdays. I really hope you enjoyed it and that